Good evening, everybody. Would you please rise as you are able and pledge allegiance to our nation's flag?
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, it is 6:30 and counselors present for tonight's meeting is Jeff Minahan, John James, and Sla Costello. Mallory was not able to join us tonight due to unforeseen circumstances. We're gonna get right to it with approval of the following minutes. I will entertain the motion for the town people.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the town meeting minutes dated May 20th, 2025. Second.
And any discussion? No. I do have one correction. It's a funny one. Under Article 20. Tim's explanation to Tamara Steinhauer's question reads, this would help with tipping fees as our current contract with Costello is up in July. According to my documents, Costella's contract is up in November. So that just needs to be changed to Costello instead of Costello, please thank you. Yeah. All right, moving right along. Next will be, oh, sorry, we gotta vote. Oh, already screwed up. So let's take a vote.
Motion.
Motion and second.
Motion and a second, then a vote.
Yeah.
Motion,
Yep.
second discussion.
Yeah.
And a vote.
We did.
Yeah.
We did motion second, I second. Oh, we did?
Yes.
All right. We're good.
Okay, so vote. Let's move forward with voting. Jeff,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. All right, now that we got the first one under our belts, let's move along. To the town council meeting. Can I have a motion for the town council meeting? Please?
Madam Chair, I move we accept the town council meeting minutes dated July 8th, 2025 as written. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this? No corrections. We're all good, so we're gonna take a vote. Jeff,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
Madam Chair, not to stop you on a great start, but I need one point of order.
Absolutely.
Just an understanding with three councils present that it will be unanimous, right? Anything else?
Yes,
Yes, has to be unanimous or it doesn't.
the pressure is on. Moving along to the signing of the treasurer's warrant. I'll entertain a motion for the treasurer's warrant.
Madam Chair, I move we sign the treasurer's warrant for fiscal year 2025 dated July 17th, 2025. The amount of $294,770 $77.88. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the treasurer's warrant?
Is that the last? One more? Okay,
At least one more.
at least one more. Thank you.
Okay, voting, Jeff,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. And we also have so Jen, can you just give a quick brief of why we have two treasurer's warrants on here today for FY 25 and 26?
Yes, absolutely. We split up the cost in the year it actually was incurred. And by doing the check run in that year, it allows us to do that instead of doing a big blanket general journal entry. It keeps it cleaner for the auditor.
Thank you
Well,
for the clarification. Next, so we have a second signing of the treasurer's warrant, if I could get a motion on that.
Madam Chair, I move to sign the fiscal year 2026 dated July 17th, 2025. The amount of $1,778,651.92. Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll just point out that the school payments in there were 848,000, as well as the county bill, 512,000.
So that was a big one. Okay, so motion and a second, let's take a vote with no further discussion. Jeff,
Aye.
John? Aye. And I'm an aye as well. Next on the agenda, we have reports and presentations. It's committee updates, planning and economic development, and I'm going to assume, DeCarlo, you're gonna take the stage for this.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Glad to be in front of you all again. There we go. So we're, yeah, there we go. Good evening, everyone. Glad to be in front of you again. So I wanted to just give you all a couple updates. Say that lightly. It's a couple updates of what's going on with the Planning and Economic Development Department. So I'm going to be saying next slide, please. So you are aware of where we're going. So next, this slide here. So first I'm going to go through basically where are we with major projects and plans that are in progress that you all have started. And so you know exactly how much money it costs, what are the next steps, what's the current status, and who is working directly on these plans and these projects, more than myself and my department. So we'll start with the Railroad Avenue property, which is a tax acquired property. We were given a grant for $22,000, a grant of service from SNPDC, TRC, and Niche. Those are 3 different companies that are working on it. They've already completed a site visit and are currently completing their analysis. Basically, they're giving us options of land use, of what can be done on that site. And then those options will be presented to you, the council, and so then you can make an informed decision of what you want to do with that property. And so that's coming to an end very soon in September 2025. There's a meeting scheduled for July 31st to go over a draft of those land use options before they finalize those. And so that's internal and staff, so we could point out any problems or have any questions about what they've come up with. The next is the parking GIS digitization that's being done by SNPDC. Basically, they're digitizing all of our on-street parking, our public parking spaces. So this includes the Paul Street parking lot, includes all the on-street parking in anything that we have. That's coming to an end this month at the end of July 2025. And the cost to us was $2,500 for them to do the digitization. They literally have to map it by hand, digital. Sure.
Will that cover the spots that we lease to Avesta, just so we can see how many there are in that? If it's just open public spots?
Just open public
Okay.
spot.
No,
We can add those though.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
To see, but if it's open public, that's good too.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So the next one is the wayfinding study. The digitization of the parking spots is going into the wayfinding study. This was a way for us to reduce the costs of any type of study that we do for wayfinding. That's actually kicking off really, really soon, at the end of this month, early August. And that will be in consultation with the Downtown Revitalization Committee that's been formed. And so the cost to us is $25,800. And they're doing a kickoff meeting at the end of July, which we're really looking forward to. Next is the bike pedestrian plan, which was a grant to us of $63,000. And our cost to us was $7,000. And that was grants through basically CACS and SNPDC to do this study. This has been in the works for a year, but they could not come to a contract agreement with the other firm. Finally, SNPDC and CACS have come to agreement with VHB to start that off. And they have an official kickoff of August 12th, and that'll be a 10th month progress. Again, that's also going to be using our digitized parking spaces for that. And so we'll have an overall view of where we're going and how to get to different places around town. And a future plan of how to make that better. One of our biggest things with the comp plan was to have better connectivity around town and throughout town. And so this will help us do that. Those three together will help us do that. The next is our impact fee study, which was a cost to the town of $45,650, comes from the TIF. And basically, we have a requirement in our regulations now to collect impact fees. However, we cannot legally do so without a study. And so that's been going on for a number of years, over 10 years. And so now we're getting the study so we can actually ask people for those impact fees. They're on task 3 of 8, determining capital, facility, and service needs. And during their analysis, they're on month 2 of 4. So that's coming to an end very soon as well. So we're looking at September again for the end of that process too. And we can then start collecting those fees.
That'd be a good one.
It is gonna be a good month. Next is our intersection project, which is a much bigger project, much longer time frame. It's in phase 2 of 3. It's coming to the end of phase 2 now. So there was 2 public meetings were originally being scheduled for the end of June, early July. MDOT has changed those. Initially, they said we were gonna have the meeting during that time frame. Then they said August 18th. Today, I got an email back that's saying that it's only gonna be an internal meeting on August 18th. And later in fall, they're gonna have their first public meeting, digital, and then early new year 2026 is when they'll have their official meeting for the public in person. We received a grant for anticipated grant of $3,600,000 for the intersection project, for the 2 intersection projects. And we have a 10% basically ask for that. So right now, we're anticipating a cost of $400,000 that is heavily dependent on federal dollars. And so as you saw before in our budget requests for the TIF, we are planning ahead. And so if those dollars do not show up from federal government, we do have a plan B. So that is ongoing. Next is a water study for Pumpkin Town. We've received 1 scope and estimate. Sure.
So if the federal funds don't come through,
Correct,
does that, so it will only increase our costs essentially?
correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I
Um,
wasn't sure how that numbers.
Yeah, it would only increase our cost. At the same time, though, it might decrease the cost of the entire project. Because as you know, if federal dollars are included, then it balloons the cost because of state requirements and federal requirements. So that cost, we would anticipate to go down overall, but our share would go up. And so we would be paying more as a town, but the full cost of the project would go down.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Next is the water study. We've received 1 estimate for the water study. We're looking for 2 more because of the costs of 20,500 around that amount. And we're waiting for the 2 more estimates to come in. The study itself should only take 2 months. And so we're trying to get that off the ground. So we can continue planning for Pumpkin Town. Next is the open space plan. The Conservation Commission received a grant of $25,000 to complete an open space plan, an update to our open space plan. However, it did not include an open space map. We need an open space map so we can, it's an official determination by the town of these are our open spaces. This is where we want to develop our open spaces. This is where we can serve open spaces. And so we have to develop that map. We've received 1 estimated cost of $48,000 to complete that map. We are searching for more. We are not asking for $48,000. It's just information for your information of what we've been quoted so far to complete that map. I have to keep you guys informed.
That gonna be based off current tax maps, or are they gonna actually do the research to make sure the land is where the land is?
Yeah, and so they do the research to make sure the land is where the land is. It's not tax maps, it's more of more GIS, more environmental. These are open spaces, et cetera, et cetera.
Excellent, thank you.
And so for this page, it's just a really quick summary of what we're looking at as a terms of meetings, because the last page is all over the place. So we're gonna do a quick timeline. July 31st is our Brownfield meeting, discuss land use options. And then late July, early August is a wayfinding kickoff. Then August 12th, we have a kickoff at active transportation, the bike pedestrian. Then 18th is the intersection project. It's no longer a public meeting, but there will be a meeting on the 18th. Then impact fee, a presentation in September. So we are on our way.
Just for clarity, these meetings. Are these, you mentioned not a public meeting, but these
Sure.
meetings, are they? Accessible by the public, or are you just telling us the progress you're having a meeting about?
And so some of them will be accessible to the public. We are anticipating that the active transportation kickoff may be accessible to the public because it's being held by SMPDC and CAX. But some of them are going to be internal in nature. So the Brownfield meeting, that initial meeting in July will be, staff only. However, the later meeting in September will be public because it'd be for you all. So things like that. Yeah,
Just wanted to know what items.
absolutely. And I'm always going to report out. And so this is a part of letting you know that these meetings are coming. We're getting more information. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have some outstanding immediate legal things that we're doing. Number one, in our ordinances, we have an aquifer protection district map that determines where you can and cannot do certain uses in relation to our aquifers and our sensitive environmental areas. That is in our regulations. However, there was not a map. And so the water district, along with the state, recreated a map. And the planning board has conducted a public hearing for the adoption for that recreation of the map. And so you all should be seeing that soon. So then you can determine when the public hearing would be for that, if a public hearing is going to happen for that aquifer protection district map readoption.
And I apologize for not
Sure.
following the planning board closely. So this readoption.
Yeah.
is Only because the map is being introduced to it, correct? It's not a readoption like every 3 years or 4 years.
No. It's only because the map has been lost to time. Is that in order for us, this to be legal and legally binding, you all have to readopt the map. It's a recreation. Yeah. And then next is LD 1829. Is that later in the meeting or we can go now?
No, so this is the updates, basically, we received the updates, and Councilman Minahan, you'd asked about earlier. Several weeks ago, these are, if you wanted these updates, so this is everything that DeCal has been working on, and basically we have from the staff. Beyond that, I wanted to include a couple of legislative items that have passed that are of critical importance going to be of importance to us. So I've asked DeCal to add these last couple of slides in.
I'll just go, I've spoken with you all about this previously before, and so I'm not going to belabor the point, but I'm going to go quickly through 1829, and then I can show some comparisons of what we're talking about, so it gives a little bit more context. I'm making this presentation multiple times, so people understand what we're dealing with, and it's not a surprise as we go forward. So sorry if I'm repeating some information that you guys already know. So LD 1829 is a new piece of, it's a new bill that's been passed. It's law of the land and will be effective July 1st, 2026. And it does a number of things, but I'm going to go quickly through these things and because they're the most important. So fire suppression is no longer required in standalone ADUs. There is no longer, it's no longer possible to do a rate of growth ordinance in growth areas. Next, for affordable housing, if you're doing an affordable housing project, you get an additional 14 height above and beyond what our height restrictions are. So if our height restrictions are 35 feet, that means that you can go up to 49 feet if you do affordable housing. But essentially that means that it's an additional story. So if your height is 2, then you can go to 3. Yes.
And is there clarification if I put a building up and I had 3 apartments that are affordable and the rest is not, is it broken down like that, or does the whole property building have to be affordable?
No, I believe the rule is more than 50% to be an affordable housing project. Last time I checked, but they keep changing it. So the last time I checked, it was more than 50%. But I can get you some exact wordage. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, next is the local plumbing inspector determines a housing structure meets waste and wastewater requirements, and that's now in law. And then the next is 3 dwelling units allowed per lot, and that's referring to the use. Because of the wording of that legislation, it says at minimum, which is a change from LD 2003's verbiage. And so the attorneys at the state level are now fighting about it and then discussing it. But essentially, at the worst case scenario, that means that any lots that is a lot, you can put 3 dwelling units on it. And if it's in the growth area, you get 4 units. And so that's refers to the use. Next, it goes directly on density requirements. And in the growth area with water and sewer, you get 4 units. The first 4 units are, each unit is at 1,250 feet. And then each additional unit goes to 5,000. The reason why that's important is because the way subdivision law works is that it resets every 5 years. So essentially you get 32 units per acre. If you divide all the lots up first in year 1 and then year 6, you can do 4 each, it's 32. Next, in the growth area, if you do not have access to water and sewer, it goes down to 20,000 square feet per unit. It's about half an acre. It's in the growth area. And outside the growth area, if you have access to water and sewer, you get 5,000 square feet per unit. And so that's if you have access to water and sewer. How that impacts us is that we go outside our growth area to get our water sources. And the way that they pay to go outside of the water, the growth area is by extending water service. And so even though we've gone outside of our growth area, not intending to grow the density outside our growth area because we need that water source to serve our growth area. Now, if they have access to water and sewer, the density will be at 5,000 square feet per unit. And I've made that comment to multiple people, whoever can listen. Next is multiple units requirements cannot exceed single family requirements. So what it essentially means is that if you have setbacks for single family, it has to be the same for multifamily. My big question for that and to the legislative body and to up above is that, okay, what does that mean about buffers? And so now if you have buffers that you intend for multifamilies, will that also, can you no longer have buffers because that is an additional space that single family would not have? I haven't received the answer for that just yet, but that's one of the things that pops up. Next is no planning board approval for structure for 4 or fewer dwelling units. And so if you have 4 units inside a structure, that cannot go to the planning board. It's no longer considered subdivision, and it explicitly says you cannot go to the planning board for that structure. And next is ADUs no longer require residency or occupancy of an owner. So you can have an investor who owns the primary structure and build an ADU on that structure, on that lot. Essentially, this next one is in chart form. What does that mean? Because if you look in our zoning ordinance, it says square feet, per unit, but it's not in a way that's comparable. And so I put it into number of dwelling units per acre. And so if I put it in dwelling units per acre, then you can directly, do a comparison based on, hi, this is what happens within the growth area under this new legislation if you have no water, and then if you're not in the growth area, you have water. And you can see that comparison on this page. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I do point out a couple areas where our current zoning would be more than what the allowances are for the state. And you can see that in green. And so in some areas, we're still okay. But in other areas, it's a dramatic change. And then I also put in a link here that basically links you to what density actually looks like. Instead of putting in number form, you can see it on the land itself. So it's really helpful so you can compare of what 4 per acre means and what 6 per acre means. And so you can see that. And then I also put a caveat here in that, we do not currently have areas in R4 and R5 that have access to public water and public sewer. We don't. However, if those areas get that access, then they immediately get under the state protections of the state law into those units. So just to be aware of that. If you go to the next page, I do some comparisons. And so this is why I put it in, you guys have a printout of what, 1 unit per 3 acres means. And this is what you see on your left side. And this is our zoning today in R4 and R5. If you're doing 1 unit per 3 acres, this is the layout of what you can do today. And this is something that you started to address in your comp plan of going, maybe we should up these in R4 and R5. And this is the reason why, is because this is currently what you can do in those areas under the current regulations. Next, I jump to what does it mean for 2 units per acre? And this is important for those areas in the growth area that do not have public water and public sewer. That's how close the homes can be to each other. And then we jump up to about 4 or a little bit over 4 units per acre. And then that's how close the homes get to each other. And really you're looking at duplexes, you're looking at multifamily homes. But this is a number per dwelling. And I wanted to show you guys this because just because it's a number per dwelling, it's not a direct comparison on the structures itself, which that opens up opportunities for ourselves to actually then have some control over, or some input over our built environment ourselves. And so those are some of the new tools that we are going to be able to use in order to make sure that our town continues to reflect our values in the built environment as we do in talking to each other. So next slide. These next slides get up to the point, basically, of as you increase the density, they get closer together, but their shape can be different, right? And so if you on the left side in Portland, Oregon, you see 8.9 units, you have an example of what's called gentle density, which you still have the form of single family homes, but it's actually a higher number of dwelling units on those lots. If you don't do that, then you see in Charleston, South Carolina, which is just 1 or 2 units per acre later, you get much different form. And these are like much bigger apartment building structures right next to after each other, right next to each other. And so this is why I'm starting to talk about form, because form is going to be important as we go forward. And then next one is the Cleveland, Ohio one, which you see a single family home at the front. And then behind that single family home, you can see more things going on. But the street itself is, you can see that relation, it still looks like single family homes. And we have that actually here. If you look on Lower Main Street, some homes, they look like single family homes right at the streetscape, but you have big, huge additions in the back of those. And some of them have multi-family units on those. And so that's showing you a difference between those. And then if you go to the next slide, this is just 32 units on a single lot. And once you get up that high, it gets extremely difficult to have any sense of a small town feel. And this is what I'm kind of trying to demonstrate, is that even on the right side, where you see Dorchester, Massachusetts, that's what you start looking like at 32 units per acre. So that was 1829. There's other stuff that you should be aware of that's coming up. And that's 997, which is the commercial use. So anywhere that commercial uses are allowed, you now are going to be required to allow residential. And so if those areas are also in your growth area and have access to public water and public sewer, you immediately get the other numbers. And so that's something to be aware of for a Pumpkin Town area. Again, this is another one that's probably going to go back to the state because of how it's written. Today, it literally says, this is in the law itself, commercial use means that the use of lands, buildings, or structures, the intended result of which is the production of income from the buying or selling of goods or services. That's it. Doesn't say on premises. What they meant is on premises. They did not say it, and so it's not law. But that's effective the year after, so that's 2027. So they have some time to change things or for us to adapt. The next slide. Then we get to the things that are changing immediately. And this is an example of one of them that has an immediate impact on our jurisdiction. LD 14427, it reduces the maximum amount of parking spaces you can require of a dwelling unit. So now it goes down in your growth area, you can only require 1 parking space per dwelling unit. And that's effective September 23rd, 2025. So in September of this year. Practically what that does, yeah, and I know, shocking. Practically what that does, it reduces the number that we can require. It doesn't mean that they won't provide additional parking. We do know how people are. They'll take advantage of these things. But one other thing that I want to bring up at this time, what it also does, it changes the incentives. And so when we're trying to incentive commercial use and we have higher parking standards, and then residential has lower parking standards, the incentives now go to the residential, making residential rather than making commercial. So that's something that we are going to need to address, and we are planning to address that. And it's just one of those things that we're going to have to work through. We're going to have to make some decisions. You all are going to have to make some decisions, but I wanted to know what you're going to be up against. And then I just made a list for you all to show you, hey, this is the list of stuff and when it's effective. You can see the vast majority is effective immediately. What we are doing is that we're now organizing all of these into, hey, these are simple changes, these are complex changes, this is just information. The simple is just context. It's not changing the structure of how we do things. Complex, it's, hey, this is a complex structure. We either need to alter the structure or we need to create a new structure. And then informational is that there's nothing in our specific laws that we need to change, but we need to be aware of because we have to follow this new process. And that's something like the comp plan process and procedures have changed, but there's nothing that we have to do in our laws to do. It's just anytime we want to do a comp plan now, we have to follow those new procedures. And that concludes that. And I will return shortly after I get together with leadership and we can really work through a plan of attack of how we're going to address or not address some of these changes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question to Carlo.
Absolutely.
The Southport Reporter did a full article on how our town gave us like an update of what you just gave to us.
Sure.
And so I don't get this wrong, within the article, State Rep Tiffany Roberts does mention that it is important to know while the bill prohibits municipalities from adopting rate of growth ordinances, municipalities may still adopt moratoriums.
Correct. So moratoriums, and I get this question a lot. I've always get this question. This is something that the legislature actually changed, I think, last year or 2 years ago. You used to do a moratorium, I think, for 2 years. You can only do a moratorium for 180 days now. So you have 6 months. And moratorium's use is so that you can have time to introduce and actually adopt legislation that addresses the problem, but you cannot just stop all type of development for infinitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that clarification and the presentation.
Yep.
John, any?
I have absolutely nothing positive to say. I can't even fathom how our legislators in the state of Maine pass this. It's disgusting. Either way, and you can quote that, Mark, if you want, because it's absolutely disgusting that our legislators pass this in this state. So,
Watch your personality in the meeting, please, Councilor James.
that was, I'm good. Moving on.
Oh, okay, so we do have good news coming up.
I hope
Because the next update is on where we are in the downtown revitalization plan, but I'm gonna go over to that. Yeah.
So there is some good news coming up. So the probably bad news, what Councilor James sees is the future of what will this look like if we start adding 480 to our downtown lots, right? The real water. So the good news in all this, and I do wanna comment to the state legislature. I think they had a vision, John, that you may not see yet, but I'll point out to you. So clearly in this other laws, and if you look down the page, you know, almost to the 3/4 way on the bottom, it was LD 631 that says you can do home distilling. You can do up to, how many gallons?
49 gallons.
9 gallons, so with all of this, you can now do home distilling on your property, so there ain't really despair, just happiness that everybody can now have a distillery on their property, so. It's not like they missed that. I'm just saying, that's the bright side of the fact.
Our sign used to say Maine, the way life should be.
The downside, okay, the real challenges are gonna be for staff and council and planning board to try to incorporate all this into our ordinances to adopt laws as they move forward, and do so in a way that is acceptable to our community, ourselves, the council, the staff. But with the scope of long-term planning, to be able to say, what is this gonna look like in 10 years? Because if we don't regulate this correctly, in 10 years, we will have a pass here. So one of the big issues, the guy kind of breezed over it, and that's fine, so one of the big issues that pops up was on LD 29, and if you didn't pay attention, you went right by it. Local plumbing inspector determines the housing structure meets waste and wastewater requirements. Not the planning board. Not the sewer district, not the water district, but the code office. So she makes that, or they make that determination that just gonna put 4 ADUs in, let's say in the corner of Butler Street and Young Street. And that we have enough growth capacity to handle that, the source system, which we're already, we don't already. We're already looking to try to increase the standard.
Water and sewer are taxed as it is right now.
And their tax as it is right now, they're trying to put in 3 additional wells over in one of the other subdivision. So uniquely, they keep adding these. I understand growth criteria that they've got to do, but it's not like they come talk to us. And it's not like say, do you think this is a good idea? We probably should have said, no, don't you think you should have planning board? And then sewer department, water department, and municipal contractors and all those people who make that. These important decisions day to day, weigh in on this? No. Just the code officer, that's all. Crazy stuff, it's just, and so the important piece is gonna be for us to try to spend the amount of time we have to do. To now take him and us and you and incorporate all this into our ordinances, so we hopefully don't. Have what we've tried so hard to preserve up till now be ruined in fire taking. It's gonna be a unique challenge, difficult. And not just here, 428 other towns and cities across the state. Thank you. Right.
Okay, so, additional updates, in addition to the planning board, I also, am the liaison to the Downtown Revitalization Committee and the Comprehensive Plan Committee. It's easy for the Comp Plan Committee, they don't have a quorum yet. And so we need a quorum for them to start their work. We continue on to meet, basically the standards of, hey, this needs to be done. We can't wait for that to happen. We're just completing things in a comprehensive plan. But the Downtown Revitalization Committee has been stood up. They have their own rules and regulations that they're abiding by themselves. They're meeting regularly. They actually will meet tomorrow. And they've started work on completing the Downtown Revitalization Plan. Some of the stuff that you see before you this is directly from the Downtown Revitalization Plan. I make it into a spreadsheet and I'm marking off the things to go along. The things in green have already been completed. Things in yellow have already started and we're getting status updates. So I'll go quickly through this because it's not a lot of items, right? So we've already appointed a downtown committee, so that's done. You've already identified staff leadership position. That's myself, so that's done. The next is establish a subcommittee of town coordinates to incorporate into the traffic scheduling project. That's already been done. They are already starting to do that work themselves. And they're continuing that work on July the 23rd. It's with the wayfinding, basically, they're meeting tomorrow to start to go over what it should look like. What should the lighting look like? What should the stoplights look like? What should wayfinding look like? What is gonna be, the view of the town through the actual built environment of these improvements. And so they are meeting directly on that tomorrow. Establish a campaign to inform town business owners and residents of the downtown area and facade improvement programs. They've already started to draft, basically advertising for that to send out to, businesses. And we have a list of businesses that we're going to be using for that. So they're already doing that work. Next page. We're exploring, modifying the TIF, to expand to more areas. So that's already under consideration. We're looking at tax implications and new laws implications on that, what will happen, and we'll review to that. Initiate a comprehensive review of the town zoning ordinance. We're doing that, and we have to incorporate these new laws and the recode that staff leadership is championing. Evaluate ongoing and future projects. Requires a full-time planner. You've already done that. That's complete. Establish a downtown business and property owners group consisting of businesses, and they're already doing that. And actually, they have a meeting coming up on August the 21st that's inviting current businesses and people who want to start small businesses to come out in a meeting on August the 21st, which will have a nonprofit called SCORE. And if you're not familiar with SCORE, they're a nonprofit of retired people who've owned businesses, that worked in businesses, that help people start businesses. So they're coming here to the town to give people information of how to start new businesses. M&T Bank is the sponsor of this meeting. And so they're going to be giving information about finance and how the money works behind that. And then myself, I'm also going to be there to give an introduction to the town's role and you starting a business in the physical infrastructure if you want to start here physically. So that's ongoing. And then the outcome of that will probably be they want to create a whole booklet of, if you want to start a business, these are your steps and procedures, and this is how easy it can be. This is the next page. Utilize marketing tools such as networking. So market analysis has already been completed, and we're rolling out changes based on that analysis. Next is to private developers and property owners, new zoning ordinances, mixed use development, and increase housing capacity within the downtown. We just started going over that, so I'm not going to go back over that. And it's new laws and the recode. Next is consider updating historic districts to match National Historic Register of Historic Properties in town. Historic District is currently conducting that, and they've already started conversations with the planning board about that. You guys have probably already seen stories in the paper about that. So they're already doing that work. And next is review town zoning ordinance on a biannual basis for continued updates. We're doing that, and that matches directly with new laws coming out. So that works really, really well. And so we're going to go to next page and next page, please. Yeah. Okay. So initiate a sidewalk condition ADA connectivity assessment. So we were doing that. Pedestrian study is kicking off August 12th. So that's in progress. Initiate parking wayfinding study. We're doing that. Parking digitization is ongoing, and the wayfinding and check-in is in July. Establish a streetscape design. We're doing that as well. So the Downtown Revitalization Committee, that's one of their agenda items for tomorrow on hey, what work needs to be done? How can we organize to do that as well? The next ones, we haven't started. So why we haven't started. Investigate the feasibility and costs associated with underground power. We have asked about that. We do know that the cost will be around $4 million to do. And so we need to understand the implications about that because of,
It's sweet, be nice, clean and sidewalks.
It'd be nice. However, so next, initiate a parks master plan study. We have not initiated that yet. We have a lot of plans ongoing. We're not thinking of putting another plan set on our plate just yet, because that would be a bigger endeavor to do. So we're going to see as things roll off our plate, then we can evaluate what we're going to do next in the time frame and as resources are provided. Next is continue identification of infrastructure action items. in need of capital investment. That's ongoing, the TIF and grants for Lower Main Street. So we're looking at what grants we can get for Lower Main Street and around town, who can give us free money, and we're going after it. And then next, initiate a downtown transportation planning study. We're going that, with Lower Main Street, and we're doing the wayfinding, and we're doing a bike pedestrian plan. And then next is work with Source District Commission to develop historic walking trail through downtown. So, we are looking at the museum and the streets approach. We've already been in contact and met with the County House Museum, and they already have something that they were already working on with some private owners. And so we're seeing how we can or cannot be incorporated into that. Let's not recreate the wheel. Let's also pool our resources. So we're seeing how we can do that. And then the next three are not in progress just yet, but the one that is in progress, implement an additional wayfinding signage. Implementations after wayfinding study completion. So we're getting the style that we want, where we want them, everything is included. And we are anticipating to put wayfinding out this year as well after the wayfinding is complete. You've already put that in your budget to do, and so that's a part of the plan. And then the last two have not started just yet, and that's a park and recreational upgrades identified in the park master plan, because of course we haven't done a master plan yet, and continuing identification of infrastructure action needs. And then there's more information needed after pedestrian study. So we are well on our way to complete this stuff. And that's why I put the scheduling of this before we hit this. So you can see that these things will be rolling off of this to-do list. And so we are well on our way, and now you are fully updated on your progress report for the downtown revitalization.
Thank you for ending on a positive note.
Yeah.
I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Smile when you get.
Yeah. Right. And if there's no questions, thank you.
So of this little list that you just gave us.
Yeah.
How many items are coming in front of us for approvals, things along that line? Because this isn't just, in my mind, this isn't just a done.
Yeah.
Done, guys. This
Yeah.
is something that needs to come to us, correct?
Yeah, all of them.
Oh.
Yeah, all of them. And so this is basically saying, I'm sorry, you guys are gonna be busy in the next couple months. Yeah.
One of the things, and maybe this is a meeting that I need to have with you, from my understanding, but I think it'd be good for the council and the future council.
Sure.
One of my concerns is the blending of and the use of our TIF districts. Yeah, I think that's clear. And the blending of our historic district.
Mhm.
When I talk to economic development people, I get confused. It's like we want more housing, but we don't want sprawl, we want this, we don't want that. We want a TIF that's going to help our town, but we want to overlay it with historic district that has limitations that I can't do stuff. That's my perception. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around, quote, preserving our historic district, but yet growing our town to the future when it's in the same area.
Yeah.
And I'd love some clarity on that.
Sure.
Maybe that's offline, but I'm just having a hard time trying to make those two jive, because I
Yeah.
want the TIF district to be massively successful, and
Yeah.
if that means pushing aside the historic stuff, I'm personally good with that, because I think we honor that, but.
Well, I mean, this is a simple one, the answer to begin with. The answer itself is going to be more involved, and there's different processes we're talking about, and it has to do with how we're going to address the new state legislation. And I started to discuss that earlier, but essentially what you can do is you use these new tools for one, objective design standards. And so this is the blend, right? And so if you have objective design standards for your downtown or for your new, your Punkintown TIF district, things start to look similar. They don't have to look the same, right? But they can look similar. The picture of your roof, the massing, how many stories you have, 2.5. What does a half story means? That means that they have like a really pitched roof, like that's traditional in nature. You can do things that like you're adding more units, but units are interior to the building. When we're talking about historic district, we're talking about the outside of the structure. And so you can have design elements outside of the structure, right? Looks a certain way, interacts with the public a certain way, but the amount of units in interior can be variable. You can have 2 bedrooms or 3 bedroom units, you can have 1 bedroom units. And so that's the way you get a mix of that. In addition to that, you can go, the massing is not only for one structure, but for multiple structures. So we have a neighborhood map that's through our assessing office that really delineates how the structures in our town are laid out per neighborhood. You can put in standards that are minimum distances from principal structures. And so on a single lot, you can have multiple units, a number of units, but you can have those structures be a certain distance away from each other. So the style of the neighborhood stays the same. So you have objective design standards and those type of standards about spacing and massing, and that's how you blend those two. And then that's how you actually blend walkability of your town as well, because that goes in direct relationship to your streetscape and your streetscape standards on like how big should the sidewalk be in this neighborhood, or how fast can cars go through here. That determines on how walkable that street's going to be and how people traverse the street. So it is really connected to each other. All these standards are really connected to each other. And so you're really talking about the structure of all of your land use provisions as a whole. And you have one structure right now, as it is today, our zoning ordinance. And then, because of, things are out of control, we're going to start to alter that, but we're going to do it in a way that's acceptable to this town and in a direction that this town wants to go to. And so that's why I started to talk about gentle density, because just because it says you have to have a number of units, it doesn't say how those units have to look. So,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's almost like the renovation of the town hall, we're gonna keep the outside historic, but the inside is going to be modern.
Bingo. Yeah, you can do a mix of that. Yeah.
Anybody else? We love to premise it down. So Carl, thank you very much for that presentation, and also to the downtown revitalization commitment, the committee and their commitment to moving forward and keeping us honest with not keeping that as a book on the shelf. So I appreciate that. Hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll have a forum for the comprehensive plan so we can get them rocking and rolling too. So
Absolutely. All right.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. To comment on items not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the auditorium that would like to make a comment? Seeing none, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to comment on something that's not on the agenda this evening? There are no takers on Zoom. The council did receive an email earlier from Sam Lindstrom regarding a public comment. It pertains to the center striping of the town roads. He had some questions, concerns, and some positive input of maybe saving some money, some engineering issues, and just some concerns, and I'm assuming the council would agree with me, but we appreciate the email to council, but I certainly interpret this as more of an operations issue and would like to pass that email along to the powers that be that could actually read into it and do a little more investigating, including Tim, Jay, and maybe even Chief Rupert. That sound like a plan to handle that public comment? Agreed. Okay, certainly, and we will move forward with doing that. Thank you, Sam, for the email that we did receive. On to unfinished business. First on the agenda is the communications audit. We've begun implementing several of the recommendations from the audit. Since we don't have a dedicated staff member for this work, we're gradually making progress as time allows. I would like to hand this over to Tim, just to get a little more input, on the rest of this agenda item.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. The Assistant Town Manager has been handling this for me, so I'm gonna turn it over to her.
Fair enough.
We have been taking the steps that we can to try and implement what we can. And the first thing we've done is we've done a little bit of updating for the website and the newsletter. On the website, we have updated the contact page. We have history of the South Berwick, and the South Berwick history, and historical resources under the community section. And the agendas and minutes have been updated to all match each other. And we have added verbiage to clearly explain how the drop-in menus work and how to find the journal, so it's easier to find. On the newsletter, we are taking the recommendations and we're going to use larger text, so it's easier to read. We're gonna alternate the front pages, so it's counselor comments versus town manager comments, and alternate those month to month. And we do have a way that you can be notified so that you can get this newsletter or anything on our website. Get notified of that. You just have to go to our website and sign up. So one of the things we have done is just made this little flyer, you guys all have a copy of, to get out to the public so that they understand that all these different ways that they can find out more information about what is going on in the community and the town, what we're working on. There's a lot of different ways, and just think that they need to know where to go. And we also are exploring, opening up an Instagram account. We're just not sure how to keep that unlinked from personal Facebook accounts, so we're working on that. And trying to create, shorter postings and more frequent postings on Facebook, which include links and not a full copy PDF of a page, kind of get a heading with a link, but we will get into that. The next focus that we're gonna try and work on as time allows is apparently we can claim our Google listing and manage that. So I've reached out to IT, they've given me some guidance, so I just need to find the time to implement that as well. And there's a few things that were suggested, like changing our town seal. I don't know if we're interested in doing that, anytime soon. And allowing people to comment on posts on Facebook. We just don't have the manpower right now to answer everybody. So we're kind of doing it more as informational instead of going back and forth with people right now. Anybody have any questions about it?
I don't have a question. I'd like to commend you and the staff that have done everything you've done in the last few years. And the South Berwick reporter also on that with getting the information out. If people are struggling right now finding information about the town, I'm not sure what all you guys can do. I mean, the website is 100 times better than the ones on the Facebook postings. South Berwick PD does great postings. Fire department does great postings. The highway department's done. It's out there, and I just want to commend everybody in the town for what they've done. You guys have really done a lot without us authorizing you or giving you money or someone to do it. So thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. We've also been working closely with the reporter. Anytime they send us questions, give us a call, try to respond to them as quickly as possible to give them the correct information. So when they put out their, reports on Tuesdays, they'll have a big. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what John has said. I think, definitely over the last 4 years, it was a lot different 4 years ago coming into it. So it looks, it's always a work in progress, it's like you never do enough to keep up with the social stuff. So I appreciate it. I felt like there was something in tip availability for maybe covering a person part-time, something like that. I'm not sure, like off the top of my head, so I want to.
We do have Brittany Spencer, who is admin for economic development and planning. She does handle our Facebook page. Dawn handles our website. So collectively, between the two, we are trying to get at least, 5 to 10 hours a week. The newsletter is timely as well. So we're trying to fit that all in, but yes, there was some hours, 8 hours a week for admin. For social media type stuff.
And maybe a suggestion would be, that we as a town start tracking your time individually to better understand what it really is entailing. To be able to come to the council and say, I'm doing 5 hours a week of this, and 8 of you are doing that. It might be better just to say off to Jeff, which I'm not the one that can do that, but off to Jeff, and hand it off.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe just be able to help you guys as well as plan for the future.
It might just easier to sell next year rolling into the budget, also, if we do decide to put in an IT person. If we had a, you know, just a spitball, hey, we put in 1,000 hours last year doing what we did. This is what we could do if we had 2,300, which is the full-time employee. So that could actually help us at the end of the year and budget season.
We can plan that, thank you.
But again, not to take away from what you guys are, thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for that, Jeff.
Yeah, excellent suggestion. In reviewing, the audit that was included in the supporting documents, for tonight's meeting, there was a couple things that definitely, caught my attention of these would be great. And one of them was the recommendation of an emergency notification system. I'm sure we're far away from that, but I think that would be something very beneficial. Or is it in the works?
I do know that fire does have some type of
Yeah.
system up and running. I don't think we were aware of at the time of the audit, we were speaking with her.
They do have that, they can send by Stanford dispatch with a. So they can do it by food phone numbers. So like they can send out an emergency text, flooding. To, let's say, Emery Bridgeville, or let's say. Gilroy. They could do. All the cell phone numbers, 384s. All the cell phone numbers listed to 384 attached to this region. Bring it up on the screen, type the message and hit send and everything.
So it's just like the Amber Alert, but
Just like Amber Alert, just like the weather alert. But it's done through Cumberland, Stanford. They have the point.
So it would be something, say there was an accident on Boyd's Corner Road and the road was completely closed. So that's what I was thinking, like an emergency notification system was.
That would be through us if we, so there's the full-time staff lead.
Yeah.
That would be someone that the fire department, somebody could call and say, and I tried to do it before, if I hear the radio, but it's the time constraint, right? If I have an employee outside the work hours do some work, then I have to pay them either overtime or I gotta pay them reimbursement. So if I expect them to carry a pager to hear the call, gotta compensate back. So all these things become compensationable, and we gotta figure out some way to, so I know the fire department does that already. So as soon as they have somebody free, they will, or the police department will do it. So like today, we have the nursing home fire. Today we have the nursing home fire. PD got on most of that, there's a fire, nursing home, try to avoid Main Street, downtown Fuller Street area. So they do that. And we do, but the fire department doesn't always have someone available to do that. Fighting the fire, or handling the emergency, and we don't always have PD staff on. Well, we do have that, and that does get out, you know.
Sorry.
Time to time, we do get those messages out.
that's donuts at the next meeting.
I know.
That's how it is in the real world. You bring donuts to the next meeting.
And then the other thing that I was actually surprised not to see as a recommendation. I know everybody mostly relies on social media or whatever, but we always. The biggest question is how do we get people to attend more things, whether it's council meetings, planning board meetings, or even events that we have going on, like, the National Night Out or whatever is. I was really surprised that they did not suggest a sign out front of the town hall. That would be the best suggestion for this town. The police department sign is great, but it's very difficult to read and they don't post, a lot of things that are actually going along. They're more informational and beware, caution, whatever. So one of the simplest solutions is to have not a neon flashing light out, sign out front, but just a sign that says, hey, meeting tonight, meeting tomorrow night, National Night Out the next day. And I was just very surprised that wasn't a suggestion in this audit.
There will be an electronic sign out front for the renovation of the town hall.
So I put that up.
We talked about it today.
That's right.
Asking you
Well,
to see.
There you go. Now you can listen.
You think about it, you wish it didn't happen.
Yeah, right. Okay, all discombobulated. Moving on, unfinished business number 2. We have, EcoMate, a board of directors appointment, and this is informational. The EcoMate bylaws requires a representative from each owner community to be appointed to the board of directors. Take it away, Tim.
So this is just a standard piece, they have somebody sit on the board for every town. Meetings are usually held, I think, like third Wednesday of the month from 3 to 5 p.m. If one of the councils wants to do it, great, that's fine, but you'll have to learn all the tracks lingo and all the lingo. If not, I was the representative when I was in Harrison, town Harrison. Recommending that it appoint me as the representative to the board here. Be the easiest, I think, for the town council, but your wishes prevail.
Madam Chair, I move we appoint the town manager, representative to the Gilpin Board of Directors.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this?
I do, not necessarily on the actual motion, but the topic. Moving forward, like right now, town manager is dubbed town manager and what, road commissioner
Road
and
commissioner, tax collector, treasurer,
so
spirit for good keeping, people having people.
would this be something that we would want to, for the future, this isn't necessarily a thing now, but to add that for the future town managers, because this is what, a 30-year thing? I agree with what you've said, and I feel like it best sits with the town manager, because hopefully we'll be shifting in and out, or these seats will be shifting in and out.
Well, and he's gonna have to, the town manager is gonna be the one dealing with the hauling contract when that expires, so he's gonna be interwoven in that whole process.
Yeah.
That's why the second thought I was.
But again, I didn't want to derail this, I think motion is, I'm good with that, but I just figured maybe we should do something with that moving forward.
No, that actually does pertain to what I'm about to say is on what you just said. Is all of the hats that you wear, Tim. Now, I understand that, this is probably more numbers and decisions. But would it, like, if we had our public works Jay or our transfer station manager, just so there's not another thing on your plate, is that something that maybe we should entertain to them?
Not at this time, because the way the staff is divvied up right now, the jobs are divvied up. So what helps me is that I have an assistant town manager. Most towns our size don't have an assistant town manager. So I do, so she handles a lot of some personnel stuff and all the finance stuff, so I'm technically, if you're gonna do that, what I would do is I would change the code of charter instead of me being the treasurer, make her the town treasurer. She signs all the checks, she does all the finances, I'm just a circus clown above my head, juggle with balls. But in reality, Jay could be the road commissioner, but most towns, yeah, so the answer to your question is yes. Most towns are getting away from the old, this was from the 40s and the 50s, where town managers were all captive, we didn't get to do that. They didn't have all the stuff we have today. Today we do add in personnel, you add in employment law, and you add in all the other stuff that we've got to do, contracts, and yeah, she should definitely be the treasurer, Jay could be the road, easily could be the road commissioner. I could say the tax collector, but a lot of those have been in other towns. But I think at some point, right now, I give you those jobs out for the staff as it is. And they do a good job. So Jay's the deputy road commissioner. I will look at roads, but Jay tells me what we're gonna do. She tells me, this is when I say we're gonna buy something, I go talk to her, do we get the money, where do we find the money, how's it gonna work? Blah, blah, blah. But I'm the treasurer, in name and signature only, she's doing all the work. So she should get the title of the pay, but it's just the way it is in the charter. But I think at some point when we're in the first charter, that we should, to be respected for the growth of the town and people who are in a position hand those positions off to people who really do it.
Yeah, I don't wanna overload you with, like we said, with all the hats you wear, and if there was another option, I thought, it would be good to entertain it, but if you're comfortable and willing to take this, position on, then I see no problem with it. We have, any more discussion on it?
No, we already pretty much told him he was taking it, so he
Yeah,
doesn't
so
really.
the only reason that I'm doing this one, I'll do this one. Is trash is inherently different, right? It's its own world, so many pieces to this. That it's burdensome, so if I send you or Jeff to me, not that you're not smart or intelligent enough to know everything, you do. But if you don't live in the world of trash, which I never lived in until 2 years ago. I had to it took me 2 years to learn MSW and corrugated cardboard. And cans and tonnage and waste and difference between transport contracts and waste hauling contracts and. MSW and DCLs and there's just stuff that I. Hope I can erase in my brain when I retire, but I wouldn't burden this particular piece, this is, it was a struggle, cause I had to learn stuff in 2 years. And I still don't feel, I guess that knowledgeable, but probably more knowledgeable than everybody else. So I will do this one gladly, because I know I wouldn't burden her with it, because I burden her with finances. She's an expert at that. I would do this, someday when I'm not here anymore, someone's gonna have to pick this up and learn it. That would be the challenge, the trash, it's its own unique life, it's its own unique world. All over of monies and finances and laws and requirements and crazy things. So thank you.
So we have a motion and a second, let's go ahead and take a vote, Jeff,
Aye.
John,
Hi,
and I'm an aye as well.
thank you.
Unfinished business number 3, board member reappointment. There was a reappointment missing from the list provided at the June 24th, 2025 meeting. Clay Curtis should have been included with a term to expire of June 30th, 2028.
Madam Chair, I move to reappoint Clay Curtis to the planning board as an alternate with a term to expire June 30th, 2028.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? I do have a question, with the, with Greg Zinsner, I got it, anyway, not being reappointed. How is our board look right now? Do we have a full board? Cause I feel like we didn't move an alternate up to fill the board position.
The alternate.
You gotta talk right,
I'm talking right. The alternate position was supposed to be reappointed at that meeting, and Greg Singer resigned at that same meeting, so the appointment wouldn't have moved up then. I'm not sure how we can figure that
We'll
out.
get to that next.
Correct,
We gotta correct this before we get there.
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
so if you do this,
Gotcha.
do this. Then, once they install the new chair, if they haven't already installed the new chair, once the new chair, then that's an order of visual.
That they,
The new chair will bring forward,
okay.
and then they'll bring that to you.
Jumping
Okay,
ahead.
tomorrow, so I suspect that'll be taken care of.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, let's take a vote, to reappoint Clay Curtis to the planning board, Jeff,
Aye.
John,
Hi.
and I'm an aye as well. Okay, unfinished business number 4. Available August 4th, 2025, in the town clerk's office will be nomination papers for 3 town council seats and 1 school board seat. One of the town council seats is a 2-year term, finishing Bill Cole's term. The town clerk got legal clarification through the town manager regarding the nomination process of filling seats with an unfinished term. Per our charter, we are to hold the election in November to fill our vacancies. Those taking paper will need to choose whether they would like to run for a 2- or 3-year term, as this is indicated on the nomination papers itself. If the unfinished term is not filled, we would then need to hold a special election to fill the vacancy. Tanya, do you have anything else that you would like to add on this agenda item?
I do not have the time, except I apologize for all of those typos I just noticed. But yes, and essentially what I said is that if anyone coming in to take council papers will have to determine which, term they would like to serve. And that's the nominations of their term, that would be voted for.
Any additional comments on?
I am looking forward to seeing many applicants. Many. Please. Come run and help us fix things. All I have.
Okay, on that note, on to number 5 of unfinished business is the legal RFP update. And. So we received 2 proposals from Drumwood, Woodsum, and Bernstein and Sher. And at this time, the town manager is recommending an open discussion with a potential path forward. Do we want to do interviews? Do we want to gather further information? What did you like best about each proposal? Strengths and weaknesses? Or do we feel comfortable in picking one of them to continue as legal counsel for the town?
Madam Chair, I would suggest that we table this until we have the full council sitting. As far as I would like the chair to be part of these discussions also going forward.
I'll second that. So we have a motion to table this agenda item with a second, and
Yeah, I have one question. Our contract isn't on a deadline with Bernstein Shore right now, correct?
No, we don't have a contract with them, we've had that for 45 years.
Okay, so we're good to table it. Go next week. I'd like to get Valerie's input. He's dealt a lot with legal in the past couple of years, I think.
So just a couple things to think about before you, everyone. You know, we only received 2 proposals. The items in their proposal serve as public information. I think, you know, if the council wants to consider it, you that's fine. If you want to have a discussion about the current operations of our current legal counsel, that would be an executive session because it's by council privilege. Beyond that, everything that's in the proposal, like public information, that stuff we can discuss. So this is clearly up to you. I think there's information that does need to be conveyed to the council. At some point. I concur, I think all 4 of you should be on board next.
Let's table that. You're both gonna be here the next one. Valerie's out at the end of the month, so she'll be here.
yes, it's out August
We're doing the 95% presentation. That's the next council, we will approve.
So could we do a 6 o'clock executive session just so we can discuss current prior to going into the meeting so we can get together? Yeah.
Would you be available?
Yeah, so we'll do that after, but we have a motion on the table to table it until the following meeting.
Okay, so. Out of my element here.
Motion is second.
So let's finish this and then we did go on to the next one. Okay, so motion and second has been made. Any further discussion?
Okay, until the next meeting, right?
Yes, to table for the next meeting, okay.
What is the date of our next meeting, just so I can make, or no, wait, you already made the motion, never mind. So, motion second, let's vote on it. Jeff?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Melissa's an aye.
Then Diane, could you set up a executive session, at 6?
So for 8:26, you wanted an executive session for 6 P M.
No, not 8:26. Mallory is not available on the 26th. It would be the
Okay, so
First
the next meeting is the following.
We're in July.
Right. Next meeting is
August 12th.
Oh,
August
oh,
12th.
sorry, my apologies. Yeah, my calendar is good. Go ahead. It's been a great day.
Okay, so, Madam Vice Chair, you have to, ask for motion and vote. Now add in whatever the criteria is. Posted.
Madam Chair,
So this particular one, because
because of,
the contract and what you're doing with it, so this particular one you should have. Because it's not, it's gonna be, it's like 6E, it's discussing contract. So it should be, just so if somebody, one of the two companies, so what did you, how did you come to this, how did you discuss it?
it's covered.
It's covered by motion and vote of executive session privileges on the legal contract, that's all.
Madam Chair, I move that we hold an executive session on our next meeting, 8/12 at 6 P.M. Discuss legal contracts.
I'll second that. With no further discussion, let's take a vote. Jeff, John,
Right,
and Melissa is an aye, yes. Okay, on to new business. Item number 1 is the South Berwick Water Fire Hydrant billings. As most are aware, the water company implemented a 25% increase in water bills effective January 1st in 2025. While we anticipated a rate hike during the preparation of the fiscal year 25 budget, the final increase exceeded our expectations. We had budgeted an additional $29,974 to account for the projected increase. However, the actual cost increase came to $37,466.84. This has resulted in a budget overrun of $7,492.52. Unfortunately, we are unable to cover this shortfall using funds from other areas within the same warrant article. The combined fire and ambulance rescue budgets do not have sufficient funds available to absorb this coverage. The town manager's recommendation is to approve the transfer of $7,492.52 out of the undesignated fund to cover the budget shortfall. Tim or Jen, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this before our motion's made?
I did reach out to the water district, and they weren't able to give us any credits or anything. They said, that they had raised the rates in a really long time, and that going forward, that we should anticipate 2 to 3% rate hike annually to happen on or about in January. They couldn't give us specific numbers for the future, and they were apologetic and whatnot, but when we have to put the cost in the year that the cost was incurred. So that left us with that. The warrant article, if we would have had a little bit of wiggle room within the warrant article, we could have come to you and asked, fires get additional money, if we didn't spend it here, we could shift it around, but we don't have enough extra in those two departments. They run pretty tight. So we will have money going into the undesignated account at the end of the year, $200,000, I'm sure. But because of the way everything's written, we're asking for that amount to come out of undesignated, cover the shortfall.
So. Can I? Stuff I think last year we were doing the water increase, because I had heard, I think it was sewer actually that I had heard about. Was that a flag on the 29,000 we had? Or was that based on numbers they thought they gave us and then they actually went 25%?
We did take the recommendation of the additional amount in the budget.
Okay.
It didn't happen as soon as they thought it was gonna, but the increase was more than they had originally expected. So,
And I, just because it's like the school budget was doing up 50,000 that year that they weren't expecting. So you guys had a number, ballpark they gave us and it came in about
correct.
business. Madam Chair, I vote to approve a transfer of $7,492.52 from the undesignated fund balance to cover the budget shortfall by hydrant water bill account to the unanticipated rate increase effective January 1, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'll just say, we gotta pay our bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's stated, but we gotta pay our bills and, as Jen said, I mean, we made a decision a couple meetings ago to not spend some money and that that lump sum is going into undesignated fund, I believe, so and that was a lot more than this, so. Hoping for better in 26, I guess, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion second, let's do a vote. All in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. And new business number 2, visitor code of conduct. To help manage the safety of town staff and ensure that all persons on town premises conduct themselves in a professional and courteous manner. The town's recommendation is to accept and pass as an executive order, which just needs a motion and a vote, or to adopt and pass as part of the ordinance would have to be a first reading, public hearing, and then a vote.
Madam Chair, I would again move that we table this until our next meeting. We've received some email traffic. And I would like to hear the chair's input also on this discussion.
Second.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? I also, in addition to being interested in the chair's input in this, I think it will also give our patrons a little more time to add some input, because this is probably one of the issues that we've actually gotten several emails in regards to, so there might be more opinions out there, and it gives them a little more time to communicate that to us as well, so. Motion second, so let's go ahead and do a vote. Jeff?
Aye.
John? Aye. And I'm an aye as well. Okay, that wraps up new business, on to manager's report.
The town manager's report for July 22nd, 2025. The highway is fixed the irrigation in the sports field. They're repairing 1,500 feet of sidewalk on all the drive. They built a new laydown area away from town renovation, backpacking all of it, they put underbrush, put down some gravel.
Can you say that again?
Yes,
please?
thank you.
The town public works, they built a laydown area for the town hall renovation.
Okay, yeah.
Over here, so just where the grass was.
Yep.
We own all the way to the tree line on the backside of that tree line, so we just cleared. I had to clear some brush, we're gonna put a Conex box there, which is gonna store all the stuff that we have in the first floor, from our old files there. Plus, that's gonna be the laydown yard for the equipment.
For the still in the parking area to park.
Right, so what will happen is so this whole area will be blocked off because they have to build a staircase to the second, third floor, exterior staircase. There'll probably be a service trailer for us to go into the office out there, so from when you pull in here, basically this side to the end of the building will be blocked off for construction and so forth. Employees can park in, Quinn's parking lot, he's giving us that. But they don't use it until Fridays for weddings and so forth, so we'll use that during the week. And then the public can park on this side over here and come in. the store.
Thank you for the clarification.
Painted the center line and fog lines on Monday night. Done, police department had 1 arrest. 9 accidents, 112 traffic stops. Officer Goldsmith is one of the newer officers, Sanford. He has started a police explorer program for minors interested in law enforcement. There are currently 5 cadets. Might see them out and about. They're wearing gray shirts with cadet written on the back. They don't do patrols or anything like that. They assist at functions and events like at the Strawberry Festival. They're all raised and they have a chance to go in and do projects with police station, police officers, and do things like that. It's a great opportunity to get people who might be interested in law enforcement. It's a great number, a great start. Forward. The behavioral health liaison assisted 22 people in the last 2 weeks and 3 families. Issues from substance abuse disorder, mental health concerns, legal issues. Fire department has had 23 calls in the last 2 weeks, 252 year to date. Kickoff meeting is this Friday, 7:25 for all currently licensed CMS providers. To review the first response vehicle procedures, forms, and response protocols. And then we'll be turning on the switch and go live as a non-transporting agency at 8/1. Good thing, because we're running, for some reason right now, we're running a lot of back-to-back stuff. Here's an interesting piece. So Nick went to, he's the local EMA director. So Nick went to the York County EMA, hosted the deputy director of National Emergency Management Association. EMA is an advocacy group representing state, county, and local emergency management agencies nationwide. The topics of this meeting was to include the status and future of FEMA, potential effects in local government. So what FEMA, what they are doing, what they've done, so how we get disaster declaration is each county has a certain dollar amount they have to hit. York County, I think, was 1.9 million. We have to occur, so they take all our damage, Kenny Bumps, York, they tally it at York County, and if the damage is 1.9 million at York County, the state then that gets ramped up to the state level. And in order for the federal FEMA to declare the state of Maine a disaster, they have to have, there's a number they had, it's either 5 or 7 million, I can't remember. So what's happened in order to do whatever it is that FEMA is doing, they have decided that they're going to double that. So in order for us to declare disasters locally now, our costs will have doubled, so that means we'll have to be an astronomical disaster to get it, which is why you didn't see the USAR emergency. So there are 9 USAR FEMA teams around the nation. One's ours was in Massachusetts, Boston, Massachusetts, so the 9 FEMA regions, each have a urban search and rescue. That's why there was a delay. Texas, because they had to wait for the Texas declaration, which now is doubled if they're, before they could set down. So what does this mean for us? You're gonna hear the system town manager finance director talk about the 350,000 we got back from FEMA. Probably years and years and years trying to be getting that again. So in the future, when we have storms where people say, oh, look, okay, you're gonna come clean all the brush off the side of the road. Hang on a minute. We need to talk about where are we getting that 350,000, not coming back from the people. And, you know, remember when we had to do Emery's Bridge culvert, not the one we just did, but the one where the storm washed out the side of the riprap? That was what? 400,000, 500,000?
Yes, that's one cleaning now.
Yeah, so there's that one. All that stuff we won't get reimbursed, that means that's coming out of our pocket. So, just to let you know, that preparedness funding, and they raised, it's called raising the threshold of federal disaster aid to over $100 million of damage, state of Maine. So, it'll be, disaster will be happening. Code enforcement, all building permits, 3 plumbing permits, 4 certificates of occupancy, 26 inspections, 3 violations, and the zoning board of appeals meeting on 8/4. Planning and economic development, brownfield projects. 7:31 is the meeting for that. In the intersection project, we updated you on this evening, and the local business meeting. The transfer station, single source is running very smoothly, and the staff receiving a lot of positive feedback.
At the library, Alyssa Lund here is our new adult services librarian, and she started on the 16th. And Portland Stage Performance is having a workshop at the library on Wednesday, July 23rd. Recreation Department, summer camp is in full swing, and they are full with students every week. This week, for Wandering Wednesday, the group's going to North Conway, and they're gonna go to the soccer. The Recreation Department has been assisting with hot summer nights, relocate to Cummings Mills Green Space, and that is going well. She's been helping them with the electrical and whatnot that they need to do their stuff. Senior program, today, the adult programming went on a scheduled trip to Foster's Clam Bake for a show. And Wednesday, the 23rd, the seniors are gonna have a lunch and learn on vascular care, sponsored by York Hospital. Assessing has been busy with year-end responsibilities, finalizing the exemption review, data entry, utility evaluations, personal property valuations. And KRT is finishing up the inspections from the callback letters, which are the letters that went out to people who were not home or had no trespassing signs on their properties. Town clerk has been cleaning out the vaults, preparing for the renovation, finding all kinds of goodies in there. Finance. Finance, HR and benefits, as Tim said, FEMA funds is $375,000 that has been approved to be released. So that's for the Hooper Sands flooding for the last April storm that we had. We should be receiving this money in within the next few weeks. I have been cleaning out the retention rooms up here, downstairs, everywhere. We have documents from the sixties. I'm not sure why we keep so much stuff. Going through the retention schedules, there is a lot that we do need to keep for a very long time. But we have a shredding company coming on Thursday, and I have a very, very, very big pile of stuff that is gonna be going away. Things that we just have the room for and just stayed there collecting dust. A lot of stuff is a 6-year retention schedule, some stuff is permanent, so Dawn has been a big help working with me on that and getting things ready, as well as the girls in my office, Linda and Heather. And then after that, we're gonna be going and doing all the personnel files, and I found a company that will come collect them, scan them, electronically get them back to me, and then they will actually shred and destroy all of the documents after. That's gonna get rid of about 6 to 8 filing cabinets of stuff that will not have to be stored within the building, in the new building. And not have to be moved by Public Works to work 3 or 4 times. I told you about the little flyers that we did the last couple weeks. Tax club letters will be going out this week for the people who want to join the tax club. And working on year-end quarterly reporting, the year-end stuff will be happening until the audit in September. And also working on another grant with Southern Maine Planning to get another grant to help for the remodel of the town hall for solar panels to help cover the cost of some of that. Originally, I had thought maybe I was gonna do it at the police station, but it has a flat roof and then engineering needs to be involved, and there was just a lot of pieces moving to that. So I thought, let me go with the project that we're doing right now, and it will help with contingency and other things that might come up, help cover the cost.
Under admin, Old Point Charter Brothers, Northeast Masonry. We're here on July 8th to do the outside of the building, scope the outside of the building. July 14th, they started the above the ceiling exploration. One of the things they determined is above all these ceilings, is plastic ceilings, they're gonna have to come down. They'll be taking all these old ceilings down. July 15th, walk various contractors to town hall, water subcontractors. We met with last call meeting on interior finishes, service windows and counters. Met with the citizens twice on music complaints, volume in the ball field. I explained earlier, we do not have law or ordinance to control that. Most we do is nicely ask them to turn it out a little bit. That's about it. And all we could do. So that's that. Code book update meeting with Paul Shoemaker is this week, tomorrow. We're having bi-weekly EMS meetings with fire chief and Katie Moore, keep us updated on what's going on with that. I had a meeting with the assistant attorney to discuss Berwick Academy. And the good news is Berwick Academy is now between their attorneys and our attorney. They've agreed to let the assessor do an assessment of all the buildings. Go on site, take pictures, do what they need to do, and agree to cooperate to an extent. Sign the agreement, transfer station to get the siding job done. Been meeting with Charter Brothers and Oak Point on contract items. Met with a citizen about paving Roadfield Drive and trying to get that done, which we're gonna try to do for fall. Meeting with a citizen on public work issues for Hickory Lane. Myself, Jen, has been meeting with Betsy Olson on the employee handbook discussion and development of that. We have another meeting Thursday.
That one's tomorrow. Code is Thursday.
Code is Thursday. Been doing bi-weekly meetings with Oak Point. There have been a few changes. Today we had a meeting and a big discussion with the server room. Trying to figure out how we're gonna maintain that operation of the server. do the construction and not have to rewire the building twice. They're coming on Friday. They're, Stella Networks that does our IT stuff. And Hillary, the electrical engineer, they're gonna come, they're gonna see if they have enough cable just to move the whole rack 3 feet into the next room. And if not, then they're gonna provide some way to do that. I got the answers for the historic district update that Dan Boyle had asked. And what I said is correct. I conveyed that to Dan Boyle on a phone call when I got it from the lawyers. Dan has that information and basically that by their bylaws, they can make those changes. All Point Associates Mechanical Engineers on site this week. Document the existing mechanical equipment duct layout. And other than that, the only other thing is I need a short executive session on the 40568 personnel. Tonight, real short. I have to brief you on a legal issue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen and Tim, for the updates. On to councilor comments. Jeff, you got anything tonight? All right.
First of all, you guys mentioned it a little bit with, on summer nights being moved over to, Shoe Town. I went to the first concert over there, it was really good, and was able to speak with Nikki afterwards. And first of all, just Nikki, like, she's just a great person, bubbly, just really great. But also just wanted to say thank you to the staff and to Nikki and to town, all of you guys, just the initiative that there is. You know, this is a public concert done by Soho Central, but the work that Nikki and Jay did to be able to get electricity over to them. Because as I was listening to the music, I'm like, how the heck am I even hearing this? And that's what we were talking about, but not to go on forever, but there's little things that are being done every day by our town staff that are overlooked just because we don't realize they're little things that are getting done. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise, again, today, I have a storm drain in front of my house, and I've noticed so over all these rainstorms that a softball sized hole has been turned into a basketball sized hole, and Jay was out there with the crew to kind of start doing some fixes out there. Hopefully it doesn't turn into an Emery Mill bridge thing. But all that to say, you know, I pulled in from getting lunch and Jay was there doing his work and I was just gonna go in, but he came over and made the effort to at least just say hi and chit chat a little with me. Again, just the great culture that we have here. And then the serious stuff. One of the things that's been kind of on my mind, not necessarily with the town, more I think for the town council, and for the public, I guess. One of the things that's been on my mind is we're in July. Nobody wants to think about winter right now. I certainly don't. Maybe this plow people do. I don't know. But I'm concerned for everybody for price of oil, potentially, food prices, things like that, that we all know is gonna be a problem potentially, especially around the holidays. And I just wanted to kind of put a plug out there for, again, stuff like with Soho Central, with the food pantry. Soho Cares does gift cards for kids, for Christmas gifts that for kids in need and whatnot. And the soup supper, which is usually right after election. Usually, there's a lot of support for that, but it's usually right then and there. I encourage people to think about it now when we might have a little bit of money for hot dogs and hamburgers to put towards that future help that may be needed. The reason why I've been thinking about this is because in our charter, you know, one of the duties of the town council is, I don't necessarily like, exactly, I don't necessarily know if I like the wording, but it says overseer of the poor. And, while I'm not sure that I feel personally confident enough to know that we could say that we have a robust process to do that as counselors. And maybe that might be something that, as a council, we could look toward the future for next budgeting season to maybe help keep that up. Just putting it in people's minds, but also putting the plug in for donations.
Madam Chair, may I respond to that?
Absolutely.
So, thank you for noticing that most councils, select boards and city council, they don't recognize there's this overseers before. A little history on that, because I looked it up one time, I was curious, comes from the law, like, advise town meetings and state and all that other stuff. And it's overseers of the poor, and it's designed in the idea of not necessarily so much like food pantries, as it was put under the auspice of, the back in the 20s, they didn't have town managers, they had select boards and town councils. So it was put under there for where we have the, yeah, the
Poverty,
poverty abatement, we have poverty abatement, so you, as an overseer of the poor, you have the authority, if somebody can't pay the taxes, to pay that. Housing, and then GA program, so that's technically what they're, just the history of it, what they're really talking about. But it's good that you look, I think, beyond that, because we get those calls during the week, so I get those calls, I can't pay, I don't have any heating. I've had a call when I worked in another town at 2 o'clock in the morning, me and the fire chief was raffling a 5-gallon can of diesel fuel up to someone's house to put it in their website so they could leave their beach from there. But it's good that you look at it, but that's the history of it.
Thanks, that's helpful, actually.
Anything else, John?
No, that's it. Thank you for the indulgence.
You got John?
I think I said more than enough,
I just want to remind everybody about, the National Night Out, at the Community Center on Tuesday, August 5th, and I was just wondering, did we get the duck tank, and is there any teasers as to who might be in it? Suckers, okay.
I'm on vacation that week, so.
The council. So I'm going first, and then after I get done, every one of you are up.
Dawn is taking
You
his,
ain't big enough.
There are 8,000 people live in this town, Mr. Will carry you there.
All right, that's all I have.
Madam Chair, I will be going to executive session.
Do we have to
Well,
adjourn?
5, 6, 8, no.
We don't adjourn the meeting.
Go into executive session. We give her a list of coming out of it and adjourn.
Gotcha.
I'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting later.
Okay,
I'll second.
Jeff will second everything later. And now.
okay. All in favor of going into executive session, Jeff? Oh,
We have to fully disclose
One
what the executive session is.
Personnel, 4, 5, 6, 8.
4, 5, 6, 8, sorry.
second,
You second.
3 seconds. All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Melissa's an aye.
I just-